Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast. Here, checking in on international break. We are going to have a bit of a deep dive on West Bromwich Albion for a few reasons. We're going to do that later in the show after we've talked about the transfer window a little bit. And a public apology will be coming for West Brom after our recent predictions and their last result. Sam? Are you enjoying the international break, or are you, in that state of where we just got started? Come on, why are we stopping?
Yeah, a little bit actually. Even X feels a little bit quiet today. I'm working on Bromley Gillingham on Saturday. If that's not a contrasting fixture to the international schedule, I don't know what is. But two unbeaten teams in League Two. So with unbeaten records that date back to last season, if people don't know. So don't bother with England, whoever they're playing. I don't even know who they're playing. 5:30 Sky Sports Football on Saturday. You can watch two of the few unbeaten sides still in the EFL going hammer and tongs, and it will be.
Were you always this good at marketing, Sam? That's
I wasn't.
A very good plug for your appearance.
I wasn't, but regular viewers of the channel and our conversation will know that I'm normally rustling paper, and I've just been having my first few hours sifting through the information ahead of Saturday
researching
evening's
the Bromley
game.
Left back, yeah.
So
you realise Bromley beat Ipswich in the Coca, whatever you call it now, Carabao Cup. So I've actually seen Bromley play this season.
Well, the final thing I'll say on it, Gillingham's unbeaten record goes back to last season. Now unbeaten under Gareth Ainsworth, and Bromley 10 games unbeaten as well. They've had 33 yellow cards between them already this season. So get it on. Blood and thunder Saturday evening.
That's great. And Parkin's coming with that stat within 2 minutes of the broadcast.
I'll leave that to the main man, but I think there's going to be a few tackles.
You heard it here first. Sam, can you guess of the top 10 fees paid in the Championship transfer window? So this is according to Transfermarkt and not including undisclosed, but the top ones are never undisclosed. How many different teams do you reckon made up the top 10 fees for this transfer window? I'll give you a clue. It's not very many.
All right. Well, I'd have two of the relegated sides off the top of my head, and I'd have two of the promoted sides. How about six?
No, stop there. Stop there. It is four. Yeah. So you're totally right. So what do you make of this domination of the transfer window? I mean, it's probably no surprise. It's Ipswich and Southampton with 8 of the top 10 fees paid, and then Wrexham and Birmingham with the other two. Does that give you any kind of vibe about the window this time around?
No, I thought it was a really fast-moving window. The amount of business teams are doing late in the day even surprises me. More than anything, and I might have touched on it last time we spoke, the amount of different leagues and the amount of different countries where players are joining the second tier from is Brilliant. Like nothing ever before. You know, some clubs scouring leagues across continents for players, which is improving the league, absolutely, but it's just a different approach for a number of teams. I think of Norwich probably would be a good example, and that's not something that's happened overnight, but it just makes for really eclectic styles, I think, and approaches, and improving what already is the best league. You know, I will always bang that drum. So I thought it was so much business done in the Championship, as equally as exciting as the Premier League with some of those big moves. And no real surprise. I suppose not to have anyone else kind of flexing their financial muscles is maybe a little bit of a surprise. But it just probably makes me double down on Birmingham.
Let me just tell you, Sam, real quick. Not far off the top 10 was Norwich with Kvistgarden, Middlesbrough with Strelec, which was a late one. Actually, Middlesbrough also Melander, who's been loaned back till the end of the MLS season and going back. So Middlesbrough probably, other than those sides, did a bit, and Derby with Aguimang. So there's a few names for you just bubbling below.
Yeah, maybe important to factor that in, I suppose, those clubs, because they were the ones I was just thinking off the top of my head would probably be the ones that could spend some big sums. So, no, it probably just makes me double down on where I've been in the last 10 days on Birmingham and Wrexham likewise. You can't just look at it now probably as a season of consolidation. I don't think that would be the worst outcome, but the reality is the sums of money and the strengthening of the areas that I felt needed to be strengthened. They've done so, across the piece, really, with the midfield additions, especially latterly with, adding Doyle, left-sided centre-half. Not to say there were problematic areas, but just to really strengthen in all positions, makes them a great shout for top half better. They could absolutely gather momentum as the season goes on and potentially be, I think, playoff contenders, not automatic just yet, but certainly playoff contenders.
Yeah, agreed. And the two players, I mean, El Canouse went in the end, but might we be sat here saying two of the important deals were not deals? Hackney still at Borough, Sargent still at Norwich.
Yeah, I don't know how much the start to the season would have swayed things for Hayden Hackney. I think if a Premier League club comes in, it's incredible, life-changing money over 5 or 6 years. That probably does sway him. Obviously, some of the clubs that he was linked with, there wasn't that discrepancy between where they currently are. But they've started brilliantly. Obviously, we spoke about him last time on the pod. His relationship with Morris is blossoming and probably fundamental to their chances. Realistically, him sticking around and Sargent, you would never have envisaged this when he's getting linked with Burnley and Bundesliga, Wolfsburg. I think Football Cliche said both those aforementioned clubs were perfect fits for Josh Sargent, and I tended to agree. Kind of promoted
You always agree with Football Cliche.
I do, yeah. It's like...
We'll have to get him on, yeah.
It's my favourite pastime, listening to that on a Tuesday and a Thursday. That's unbelievable to keep him. I mean, he's, their performances haven't been breathtaking to say the least, but he's been able to...
His have.
He's been able to notch in every game. I think Middlesbrough conceded pretty much one chance in that victory over Norwich at Carrow Road, and he stuck away not even a half chance, really. So, top player. Just got to wait to see what the chemistry of the rest of that team's like, because at the moment, again, it's been a little bit patchy to start the season. But if they can gain any rhythm, he's a sure 20 goals, isn't he?
Oh, maybe more if he stays fit. He could really have a Ivan Toney, Timu.
Well, he's mobile as well, and he's aggressive, so he's not just a finisher. He's... I probably roll this out quite frequently, but a number 9 has to be able to move occupied defenders, run these days, and get goals, which is to play as a 1, and I did it a little bit toward the tail end of my career, and you come off absolutely shattered because, again, one of my favourite lines, Paul Tisdale used to say to me, "You're the driver of my train." So if the fullback's got the ball, make yourself available. If the midfield players have got the ball, run towards the goal, make a run. If the goalkeeper's got it, he might come to you. You've always, as that number 9, the central one, got to be available for the pass. So he does it maybe better than anyone because he's so mobile.
Brilliant. I've got a top 3 here so far in no particular order. Morris at Derby, Iran Kunda at Watford, and Thomas at Stoke. I think are my 3 favourite signings or best signings so far. Anyone kind of floating your boat who might surpass that? I do like Tom Fellows at Southampton as well. Obviously, that's not. Yeah. That's. I thought it'd be more money as well. I know 10 million is 10 million, but anything you're looking forward to signing wise, player wise?
I don't want to ruin the show by speaking about West Brom, but I'll just say that Nat Phillips was colossal the other day. In their victory at Stoke, which we will come on to. Mubama, Stoke, didn't score, did hit the post. Just thinking about that most recent game that I've covered, and that brings me on nicely to King Kone at QPR.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. I should have got that out first. I should have had some signings in front of me this morning, but
King Kone.
I've just had the news that I'm an uncle for the
There you
third
go.
time,
Congratulations.
which was nice news this afternoon. So I'm a little bit underprepared, but I spoke to a fellow supporting QPR fan the other day at a golf club near me, and I told him. He said, obviously not having the previous knowledge that I do, it's nice to have a proper centre forward for the first time in how many years, running through at the loft end and having the full confidence that he was going to stick it away. I think he could be a Premier League player within a couple of seasons. And he had a real dip back in the last season and he lost his mojo, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe confidence.
New manager, team stopped winning.
A little bit. Yeah, that's probably having watched him from the outside and spoken to people that have played with him, I'd be surprised if confidence is an issue. I think he could. I'm not suggesting QPR are going to shoot up the table just yet, but I think he could be talismanic for them this year. I'd expect him to get 15 goals if they're providing him chances, because I think he's a brilliant player.
I think Sam's going to go full Les Ferdinand on this. So get in the comments, try and pick the date in the season at what point Sam Parkin compares Richard Kone to Les Ferdinand, which is definitely going to happen, bearing in mind what he has just said. Right, let's talk about West Brom, Sam, and we're going to do this for 3 reasons. The first is the public apology, which I'm about to give. The second is that you covered their excellent win at Stoke in round 4. And the third reason is I just want to hear about Ryan Mason. I want to hear about the journey and what you saw and what you think we're about to see. But let's do the public apology. What were the predictions here? So I had Stoke to beat West Brom 2-1. Sam had Stoke to beat West Brom 1-0. I mean, it's half a public apology to the West Brom fans, but it's half a public apology just to each other for never trust Stoke. Come on. We've done it. We've been here too many times. Brilliant start to the season. So we're like, here we go. 4 for 4 Stoke. But yeah, I humbly apologise. Jeff Astle, Gary Megson, Bob Taylor. Who else shall I don't know who else to...
Danny Dicio.
It's a rare mention.
DJ in centre forward.
He's brought it back to QPR again. Who was it who said Kieran Richardson when they did the Great Escape under Brian Robson? Anyway, your boys didn't take a hell of a beating. We got it wrong. We apologise. Enjoy it. Have you got anything to add to the apology, Sam, before you tell me about your experience covering Stoke 0, West Brom 1? It was 1-0 in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I won't apologise.
You never apologise. You always leave it to me, don't you?
I think at this stage of the season, we've been consistent in going with form, really, and not throwing too many curveballs in. And Stoke, to my eyes, it was a disappointing home defeat, and they probably didn't have enough on the West Brom goal to suggest they deserved anything from the game, but it was a much better Stoke City from my eyes. And you've got to be balanced, as the manager is. He's probably more balanced than anyone else, currently in charge of a championship club. And you dust yourself down, say it wasn't quite our day. They were a little bit one-dimensional, probably put too many balls in the box, but I'd be really, in terms of just slinging balls in there, that were dealt with by West Brom's defenders. But yeah, in terms of a performance, they are light years away from where they were last year. But yeah, West Brom, interestingly, probably my first kind of sentiment is it was quite a pragmatic West Brom. Maybe not too different from various different guises over the years under Tony Pulis and Carlos Corberán. I think naturally when it's a coach that's been at a Premier League club working with younger levels, obviously progressing to the first team, you expect them to play that wonderful free-flowing football, maybe playing out from the back, risk-taking. Didn't see too much of that. On occasion, they will build, and central to that is Moet, who will drop between the two centre-halves to get on the ball. And I thought him and Malumbai actually were kind of pivotal in this game. Their kind of nous in the midfield in comparison to that of Baker, Seko and Jun Ho for Stoke was a bit contrasting. I thought they controlled the game. They managed the game, and having that experience in the spine, despite some new additions, put them in good stead. So yeah, I'd name check those two, but it was defensively really, and that's where the pragmatism sentiment comes in. Saw the team sheet, you think, right, they've got Styles playing left back, and they're going to have a centre half playing right back. Wasn't sure who it was going to be, and it was George Campbell, who I felt was a big bloke. I'm not sure he's going to be particularly mobile up against Sorba Thomas. Absolutely superb, the two of them. He looks to be like a really good signing. Campbell, obviously, he's more of a centre half, but he was excellent. The one time he stood off Thomas, he was nearly punished. Thomas whipped in a really good ball, which Manhoff nearly scored from at the far post. But in the main, absolutely colossal at right back, defended really well, quick. Callum Styles didn't look out of place either at full back. But the biggest mention, Mepham, excellent debut, but already gave you a little sneak preview. Nat Phillips was just colossal, courageous in his own box. The most important moment of the game, if you like, with his goal. Steady little finish on the half volley on his weaker side. And they defended everything. Again, there's better ball playing central defenders in the league. So it'd be interesting to see how they evolve. They play a little bit, but they're very narrow, West Brom.
I thought that against Wrexham. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Very narrow. And I think the plan seemed to be Mikey Johnson and Jed Wallace come in really narrow, two wingers, and previously they've had Darno Furlong. If you can picture him in a West Brom team as they build, he goes really high on the right-hand side. So they don't have that now, especially when they've got a centre-half playing at full-back. So Johnson and Wallace come really narrow, whether that's to try and get a little overload going in the midfield up against Stokes 3. And if they can't get it to their feet, then they just clip it into Hegerber, who is, if you've not seen him, a brilliant hold-up striker. He's got loads of cash in the bank already, I think, with the Albion fans because of his all-round game. How long that honeymoon period will last for without scoring, we'll have to wait and see. But he was excellent.
Doesn't matter if they're top of the league, does it? Eh?
No, and he was excellent, and it's quite refreshing for me to see someone contributing so much, without getting the goals, which normally takes the headlines. But he's been excellent. So they look for him quite early into his body. He's got great awareness, good touch, left foot, uses that well. So that's kind of the game plan as such. A little bit of a lack of pace maybe. So we'll see if one of the new additions in particular, Illing Jr., contributes in that regard. Johnson looks to have rediscovered his mojo. But, in the main, it was, a really hard-working performance based on defence. Which
Sam, is this is the philosophy against the game you're playing? Is that because they were away at Stoke and playing against Mark Robins? Because I heard from the Blackburn game, the first half of that game, that they were pinging it about. So if you're telling me he's got two different games of which he's won both of them with completely different approaches, that speaks quite well of Ryan Mason, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think they'll want a little bit more in attack. They didn't cause Stoke too many problems. Price was really quiet. He's obviously been one of the standout players so far this season. So at home, when they have more of the ball, I think the build-up will be a little bit more deliberate. And they'll get better. He's got Madger waiting in the wings. You
love Madger, don't you?
I do. He's got DK to come back as well. You mentioned a player earlier, Kieran Richardson. It feels like quite a well-trodden path. They've got Toby Collier as well from
and did he appear
from Manchester United? He came on briefly. He's made I think 6, maybe 8 appearances for Man United, which says to me that he's a very talented young player. So they've got players to come back in, and they'll have to be a little bit more impressive and a little bit more creative going the other way. But I sound like I'm being maybe a tad negative. Really refreshing seeing the manager come in and getting the fundamentals right, getting them hard to beat, and then I'm sure they'll add a little bit more potency as the season progresses.
And what do you make of Mason? Because it's impossible not to make the Kieran McKenna comparison with a career cut short by injury, being at Tottenham, kind of quiet, studious guy. I don't know whether that makes any odds on how he manages. But it's a it's a gamble given his age and his inexperience. But obviously, he sat there in the interviews and sold himself. But it's a pretty exciting start, isn't it?
I'd be very surprised if a club like West Brom, that seem to have their house in order across the board now, wouldn't get this right. So there must be something about him. All the reports they must have had from Tottenham, and you got to factor in the experience he's had as well, which has been vast as a coach. I mean, I don't know how many years it's been now, but it's got to be 7, 8 years, even more, working with some of the best players in the country. So at one of the biggest clubs. So I'd be very surprised if he hasn't come with glowing references. He's probably stepped out of an environment where he could have had a job for a hell of a long time to take a bit of a risk. So it is a risk, but I trust probably in the ownership and decision makers that this is going to be a good one, even though it's early days. If he was trying to play total football and they were looking unorganised and the ball was being turned over too readily and the squad wasn't looking balanced, then there'd be alarm bells. But, all those are so far away from what I witnessed on Saturday. They looked like a really organised side as they were under Corberan. And, he'll just want a little bit more enterprise probably in the approach play, which I'm sure they'll get the majority of the time at the Hawthorns.
Do you subscribe to the premise that the parachute teams aren't all going to score 95 points this season and the door is open if you're Middlesbrough, West Brom or Stoke?
I think so. I'm always really reluctant at this stage of the season because you just don't know how it's going to look, after the transfer window closes. And probably the Leicester result the other day probably makes me feel like it could all be all right on the night.
Did it make you miss Marty Cifuentes though?
Not in the aftermath of the wonderful victory over Charlton, but yeah.
Sorry, back. I took you off topic.
No, I think I was very consistent, and I mean, similarly to Mason, just on Cifuentes, he dealt with the squad he had available to him. That wasn't overly elaborate. He was flexible.
Great point.
He was flexible.
He did exactly the same thing, didn't he? Yeah.
But yeah, what I was trying to articulate.
Sorry.
It probably did make me think Leicester casting, Birmingham aside relatively comfortably. Birmingham didn't have too much on the goal. It could be all right for Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester. But yeah, my gut is saying that this is going to be one of the most open championships. And I hate us churning that out year after year. But the problems of those teams in the early weeks of the season, a novice in terms of English management going in at Southampton, the uncertainty over Leicester and Ipswich troubles in the early weeks. Hopefully, I think it would be great. It would be absolutely brilliant if we had 3 or 4 other teams that were capable of being there in the spring. Bring it on, I say, because it's been many a year probably since we haven't had a relegated side already promoted by that time.
Yeah, right. I think that's probably quite a good place to finish then, Sam, for this week's Championship Check-In podcast. Get involved down there in the comments. Very eager to hear people's takes on West Bromwich Albion. And yeah, talk to us about the transfer window. I know there's been plenty on that down the channel, but you haven't heard Sam's take, so get your views in on that. And yeah, that last point as well. The longer we're asking the question, I think the better for English football. The longer through the season we're asking the question, is the door open? I must admit, I am one of the bad guys now. I support a parachute team, but putting my allegiances aside, it would be good.
And interesting in January again, and it's not to everyone's taste, of course, but that's going to be fascinating if Birmingham, for example, were well positioned.
Close.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something to get excited about when we get to Christmas time because, teams with the financial...
They won't be shy, will they?
No, you wouldn't think so. And that's something that you had to factor in, I think, with Wrexham as well, since we've started talking about this season. So if they're in touching distance, they could really go for it again.
Brilliant stuff. Right, we will see you later in the week for the predictions. Get in the comments. And thank you for watching the Championship Check-In podcast.